Hi, everybody, it's Weird Wink Wilkinson laughing and scratching at you. How's everybody doing today? I got a little bit of a stiff neck. Let me just fix this up. Oh, that feels a lot better. Well, I got a great show for you today with some wonderful weird stuff. I feel so very weird.
There are some things in this world that go way beyond human understanding. Things that cannot be explained, things that most people don't want to know about. That is where we come in.
No human being would stack books like this.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Oh, it looks like you're the one who needs to be taught a lesson, pal. Class is paying 101. The instructor's Casey Jones.
Look, I don't want to fight you.
Well, tough rocks, pal.
Do you want some coffee, Mr. Tully?
Do I?
Yes, have some.
Yes, have some.
It's a cup of coffee in the big time, yeah. Cup of coffee in the big time.
Hey, what do you say we both be independent together, huh?
I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
We have the tools, we have the talent.
It's Miller time.
Luminous beings, so we, not this fruit basket.
Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Hey, these aren't my rules. Come to think of it, I don't have any rules.
Well, that's great. Either I have a monster in my kitchen or I'm completely crazy.
I don't think you're crazy.
You know something? Maybe I am insane. Maybe I am insane.
Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
Rise to the top, oh yeah.
That's the nicest thing a dog can say about anybody.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point. You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
Sometimes happens, someone has to deal with it, and who are you going to call?
It's showtime.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Comic Book Radio, episode 297. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti, and tonight we are going to be talking about the launch of newsprintcomics.com. This is officially up and running right now. This is the in-house printing that I was raising money to do on Fund My Comic. This is the stuff that we've been doing to make the Blood Realm number 15 to 18 books possible. And this is also a service that's being extended to other creators as well for small batch printing of their comics in runs of 200 or less, 48 pages or less, full color or black and white, standard size or mini size. I'm going to be going over a little bit about basically the whole site tonight. It's not too big of a site. It's just a page. I'm going to be going over that information for you guys so you know what to do to format your files, submit your files, get your project into me so this way we could print that book for you. It's going to kind of be like a bit of a Q&A too, where you guys can ask questions, of course, in the chat. But if you want to join the show, you can do so live. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. It's like it says right here, celebrating the launch of newsprintcomics.com with the Q&A on printing comics. Ask questions in the chat or join the show here. So that StreamYard link will take you basically to the green room of the show. And then you can join me live if you've got a question or anything like that about printing. And it's a bit more of a maybe it's an easier thing for you to have a conversation on air about it as opposed to asking the question in the chat. For those who would like to join the show, feel free. Let's see. We got Dr. Mask here. What's up, Dr. Mask? Imagine Alex is here too. How's it going? We got Cigar Gangster here as well. What's up? And Dr. Crow is here. How's it going, Dr. Crow? And Kevin Thomas as well. What's up, Kevin? Okay, so there's a couple things before I dive into the printing service and talking about it and fielding questions from you guys. The campaign, the Fund My Comic campaign, every person who got a print voucher, those have been sent out. They've been sent out a while ago. The sampler perks, those are about 95% fulfilled. There's just a couple more that need to go out. Shirts, the same thing, just a couple more that need to go out. That's these shirts. Comics are better on newsprint. And then the sketch card commissions, I'm going to be working on and finishing those up towards the end of this month, early September. And then those will be shipping out as well. For the people who ordered the Your Sampler perk, which was basically you're getting your book, standard size and mini size. This is the regular sampler perk, standard size, mini size. If you got the Your Sampler perk, you're going to get one that's literally your book, your size, both sizes here. But I need your files. And I contacted everybody through email. If you did not receive those emails, if you didn't receive the print voucher email, if you didn't receive the Your Sampler perk email, check your junk email, check your spam folder. If you don't find it in there, reach out to me, get in touch with me, and I'll get in touch with you again about what you need to do to either get that sampler, the files to me, or I'll resend you the print voucher so that you have that. But before you do send in those books, if you ordered the sampler pack for yourself, which is basically a proof, a printed proof in both the standard size and the mini size, you really, really need to read the formatting and guidelines on the site. So let's go there. So this is alternacomics.com. Now you can go right here to newsprintcomics.com or go to printing on the alternacomics.com site. That'll take you basically all to the same place. You can see the information here, just the details section. I went over a lot of this stuff in depth about maybe 2 weeks ago. So you can reference that video if you'd like. I'm not going to go as in depth about it as I did then, but it'll just be a quick run through. I'm not going to explain them. On that video, I explained through everything. So this is just going to be me reading the site to you. So the details of the books that you're going to be ordering, if in fact you do choose to do so, they're saddle stitched, stapled spine books. 2 sizes are available. Mini size is 5 by 7.5 inches, and standard size is 6.625 by 10.25 inches, or 6 5/8 inches by 10 1/4. High grade newsprint interiors. You get gloss covers. It's archival, waterproof, fade resistant inks. Short runs of 200 or less. Price breaks are offered at $25, $50, $100, $150, and $200. I will explain one thing here. So you don't have to order 25, 50, 100, 150. If you need 75 of a book, what's going to happen is that you're locked into the price point at the 50 price point. So you would have to increase your order to 100 to get the price break on that. If you wanted 125 of a book, same deal. It would be locked in at the 100 quantity price point. You'd have to order at 150 to get the price break. Covers do not count towards interior page count. I skipped one here. Interior page counts are from 8 to 48 pages, increments of 4. That is very important to note. Increments of 4 for the interior page count, all the way up to 48 pages. Again, covers do not count towards interior page count. So that's cover, back cover, inside front cover, and inside back cover. And I write it that way with no spaces on back cover, inside front cover, etc. Because that's ideally how you'd want to label that file. Digital proof provided for free with every order. First 2 digital proofs are free, $5 for each digital proof after the second. Printed proofs are $25 plus shipping upon request. Now, the formatting, which is really important, this is something that a couple people have submitted their files in. Only one person managed to get their files formatted properly for print. People have been having difficulty with this in some way, shape, or form to varying degrees. But most people are having very basic difficulty with it. So they're not sizing the files correctly. They're not formatting the files correctly. They're not sending the right file type. They're not putting the right color mode. All these different things are pretty basic for getting your files to print, but they're very, very important because a misstep on that level, let's say you send in a file, and I had a person do this, send me like a 6x10 instead of technically what they should be sending is a 6.875 by 10.5 file. Or if they're sending in a mini, it's a 5.25 by 7.75 file. Now, we got a little moth flying around. Now, if they send me the files too small and I were to go to print with those, they wouldn't print correctly. You'd have all this white border space around the page. If you send the files too big, it's going to look like you zoomed in and then the printing got cropped off when the trim occurred. So you want to make sure that your files are sized properly. If you don't know how to do that, I recommend either learning how to do that or hire someone or talk to someone that does know how to do that. Or you can hire me for the pre-press services, which I do mention at the bottom towards this page here. But this kind of stuff, that's very basic. There's other parts of this that you have to prepare your files that are more advanced. And it's not so advanced that it would be impossible to do so. Be a relatively easy fix if you know what you're doing. But again, if you don't know what you're doing, and especially if you don't know what you're doing on a very basic level, you really need to learn how or find someone that does. And I'm not saying this to be mean. Some people have gotten defensive over this. Some people have gotten their feelings hurt over this. I think it's far worse to spend, let's say you go to another printer and you spend like $1,000. I think it's far worse to pretty much blow $1,000 than just get your pride hurt for about 3 seconds. You'll learn pretty quickly that when you get back, because nothing's worse than you think you did everything right and the printer doesn't communicate with you. Very few do. And then you get your books back and they came out horribly. And you're wondering what happened. Is it the printer's fault? Is it your fault? Whose fault is it? Because someone screwed up. Is it a bit of both? And if someone is there at the printing company that cares and does enough of their due diligence to want to help you out, they'll help you avoid those mistakes. But most often they won't. And what they'll send you is something back. Sometimes they'll send you a proof, a digital proof usually. But sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll just go to print with it depending on the service or depending on, maybe you waived the proof because you thought you did everything right. And once you waive the proof, you basically, for most printers, you waive your right to even complain when the printing comes out wrong. They won't do a reprint or a refund or anything like that. So you're completely screwed on your printing. This is why I really recommend don't take this part of the process too lightly. You're literally at the finish line. The last thing you want to do is decide, yeah, you know what? I don't really need to bother with this. How hard could that be? Everything looks fine on the computer to me. The printer will make it right. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that what you're sending is the right stuff and it's going to print great. You could have the best comic on earth. It's not going to matter at all if it gets printed looking like crap. So you really want to make sure that for me and for any printer you deal with, you follow the guidelines and the formatting instructions that they provide to you. If they don't provide instructions like that to you, ask for them. You want to make sure that you're printing properly for the paper stock that they're using. and for the machinery that they're using. Everyone's different. Oh, wonderful. If anyone's hearing that right now, and hopefully you're not, there's fireworks launching by me. So it is what it is. I'm in New Hampshire. They do that quite often in the summer. So formatting. The resolution needs to be 400 dpi. That's recommended, but no less than 300 dpi. Don't get smart with it and do 299 or 290 or 250. I'm going to bounce that right back. Don't play around. Just send proper files, please. CMYK for color pages, grayscale for black and white pages. We got trim size here, 5 by 7.5 inches for the mini, 6.625 inches by 10.25 for the standard. Again, that's the trim. That's what it looks like after all of the sides are cut. That's not necessarily the file size you want to send in. The file size you ideally want to send in it involves having bleed on the file. Every cover is going to have bleed. And bleed is basically when an image extends to the edge of the paper. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to have the image actually go past the edge of the trim. So this way, when it gets trimmed, it trims nice. You don't see any white part of the paper. You just see art. And that's what the bleed is. So with bleed, add 0.125 inches to each side of the page. Bleed size on a mini is 5.25 by 7.75. Bleed size on standard is 6.875 by 10.5. Art on a full bleed page should go to the edge of the bleed measurement and past the trim. Text and important elements should be a 1/2 inch from the trim. I do have, if you notice on the bottom there, I do have templates that you can download, and that'll do everything really nice for you. All you got to do is just drag the template file over to the page file that you've got, as long as it's the right size, and then lower the opacity of the template file, and then you can see how everything lines up, and hopefully it lines up correct. If not, you got to make corrections. So with double page spreads, you send as either 2 separate page files or as one full image. Either way is fine. Text has to be 100% black. You want to make sure that it does not contain cyan, magenta, or yellow, which is CMY of the CMYK. K is black in CMYK. Ink coverage, it's 220 or less. No part of the page contain over 220 CMYK out of a possible 400. Coloring, overly dark pages, dark text in a dark balloon or box, low contrast imagery, that stuff won't print properly. If you have blue text in a black box, if you've got gray text in a black box, if you've got black text in a dark blue box, you see where I'm getting at. If you've got, all those kinds of color combinations that have low contrast, it's not going to print right, especially if it's something important that you want to be seen, like the words. You want to make sure that you have high contrast in those areas. Does that mean that you can't kind of spice up the colorization on those things? No, but you want to keep in mind that contrast is king when it comes to that stuff. File format, individual files, you got TIFF or print-ready PDF if the fonts are embedded. It's up to you whether or not you want to choose to embed the fonts. It'll look slightly better than if you didn't, but not so bad that you would really, most people wouldn't really notice it, especially if they don't have like a printer's loop or a magnifying glass or whatever. File labeling, you got to have the cover, back cover, inside front cover, inside back cover, no spaces, just all lowercase, page 01, page 02, page 10, etc. That is all lower space and all no spaces in between as well. Click here to download the templates. Like I said, that's where you can find the templates for the mini and the standard size. Files that are not properly formatted to the above specs will be rejected and will need to be revised. Now, I want to specify this. I will not be sending a proof to you if the files need to be revised. I'll take a quick look. I know what to look for. I know when the files aren't coming in right. I'm not going to waste either of our time or your free digital proof by sending you a proof that, quite frankly, you're going to have to correct everything anyway. So I'll let you know what to correct. I'll let you know what's kind of wrong, and I'll let you know that you need to revise these things without sending you a proof. When you send in everything to me and it's all ready to go for print, that's when I'll send you a proof. The proof ideally is for you to do any last second checks, make sure that things are in the right order. Maybe you spotted a typo along the way as you're rereading through the proof. Maybe something is in the wrong order. You need to send a file. Maybe you sent the wrong file. Whatever it might be, that's what really the proofing process is for, as opposed to getting every single file prep element out of the way. That stuff is really for you to do, even though a lot of printers will use the proofing process and basically send you back a proof that might look okay to you, but actually isn't. And I know it sounds weird to say that printers will do that. I know they will do that because I've had firsthand experience with a lot of printers that do that. And I know a lot of people who have had experience as well with printers who do that. They'll send you files back. They're not really going to print right for one reason or another. But you think that they look fine because on the computer, they look fine, but they're not going to print fine. And you won't know that until the print comes in and it's too late because you approved the proof. So let's see, the pre-press services for just $5 per page. We can prepare your files so they print perfectly on newsprint. All you need to do is have the page files properly sized and in the proper resolution. We'll take care of the rest. Now you have to have the page files again sized properly, and the resolution has to be right because I can't correct the sizing of your page, because what happens, even though I can manipulate that, obviously, what happens is when I do that and you didn't size your files correctly, there's going to be elements of your page that don't line up correctly anymore from when you last saw it and from how you want it to come out. That's why you have to make sure that you are the one sizing your files correctly. And the resolution, I really can't adjust that, because if you have a low resolution file that you're increasing to high resolution, it's actually not going to come out high res. It's still going to print pretty low res. It's only going to be a marginal adjustment to that. Sometimes people will send in a 72 DPI file that they just tried to resize as a 300 DPI file. You can still tell. If you know what you're looking for, you can still tell. There's still pixelation. There's still things that are not coming in high res, and that is not going to print properly. So you want to make sure, again, that you have the right resolution and the right sizing. That is a big part of the battle when it comes to this. And if you need me to take care of the rest for the pre-press services, I could do that. The shipping is estimated to cost $10 per 25 to 75 copies of your comic, $20 per 76 to 150 copies, $30 for 200 copies, and this is all shipping in the U.S. I do ship internationally, but it's obviously going to cost more, so keep that in mind. Orders will be packed securely with packing material and sturdy boxes. So, as Rob Geronimo can attest to the fact of how I'm printing and shipping to him, he's got in a whole bunch of books at this point, probably almost 100. His 100th book was shipped out to him today. He's got 4 issues. So at this point, I've printed up all of those for him, and they've all been coming out great. I will show you guys a little bit of that issue in just a second. This is one of them. He's got Blood Realm 15 to 18 that were printed with the in-house printing. And then these are the samplers. I'll show these in just a few minutes. This way you can have some kind of an idea of what the printing looks like if you haven't had a chance to yet. On the site, there's a price table, so you can see all the different pricing here for the mini. You can see the pricing for the standard. Those are print runs from 25 to 200 pages, 8 to 48. Again, keep in mind, the covers are included in the pricing, but not included in your page count. So the covers are technically 4 extra pages. Most printers would do like 48 plus 4, 44 plus 4, 32 plus 4. And you want to make sure, again, also it's increments of 4 for the interior. If you send in, 42 pages instead of 40 or instead of 44, you're going to have 2 blank pages, because the way a page folds, like we have, here's an old Blood Realm test page. You can see that this page has 2 sides, but there's 2 images, 2 pages per side. You fold that and you get 4 pages. So you get 4 pages on one sheet of paper. If you send something, again, that doesn't have 4 pages on there, you're going to have blank spots. Say you send in 39 instead of 40, you're going to have 1 blank page. Don't do that. It looks weird, doesn't look right, and it's a page you're paying for. Maybe you want it that way. If you do want it that way, like let's say you're putting in a blank page, wherever that may be, for some specific reason. Let's say you want to sketch in there or sign it or whatever it is. Let me know when you do that. I'll, of course, ask you about that when I get the files in, and I'll say, hey, there's a blank page here, or you left out a page. Is that correct? And I'll let you know that you're going to have a blank page. If you do want it as a specific page, so if you want it as page 1, let's say, make sure just put a blank page, but put a page 1 that's just white. Otherwise, if you send in an inappropriate amount of pages, I'm going to assume you made a mistake. So you want to send the right amount of pages no matter what it is, even if you want to leave a purposeful blank page. So on this site also, we've got the ability, you can order, just like you did on Fund My Comic, or maybe you didn't get a chance to. You can order the standard, the mini, or both. On the Fund My Comic, I had both that were ordered, and those were signed for you guys. If you order on the site, these will not be signed. I was only signing them for people who ordered during the Fund My Comic campaign. The rest of everything here, this is all the stuff you can sign. You can figure it out. You can just fill in all the standard stuff of what your book entails. Nothing too complicated there, hopefully. And you would send me a URL to download your print ready project file. So you might have that on like a Dropbox or a Google Drive or whatever. You can put that link there for me to download your files where you have them available. And then there's just a disclaimer at the bottom, of course. I don't own your book. I'm not going to do anything with your book without your express written consent, yada, yada. So that's about it in terms of the comic book printing here. Again, newsprintcomics.com will take you there, and that'll be hopefully a resource for many people to come. So we'll see how that goes in the future. For right now, I'm going to see if there's any kind of questions in the comments here in the chat. Who knows? We got Wayne here. What's up, Wayne? Hope you're doing good. Also, I'm going to put the link here in case you guys would like to join. If you want to come on air and ask a question instead pertaining to the printing, feel free to do so. There's the link right there. You can join the show. Dr. Crow says, I'm going to use the pre-press service when I get ready to print. Going to be my first time, and I know I'm going to mess something up. That's smart of you, man. And that's the thing, is that I'm not putting that service there to be a hindrance to anybody. I'm not putting that service there necessarily to, make an extra buck or anything like that. I'm putting that there to help you out, and I'm putting that there to make sure that if something went wrong. See, this is an extra bonus when you do the pre-press service. If something went wrong with your files, that's on me. So I got to make it right. But if something went wrong with your files and it was on you, that's different. So it's kind of like an extra insurance to say that, yeah, this is going to come out right. And if not, Pete will make it right because I'm paying for the pre-press service. Also with the pre-press service too, when I adjust those files, I send them back to you. So you actually own all those files that I prepped. So you'll have those, whether you want to reprint them again with me or whether you want to take them somewhere else down the line or whatever, you're going to have files that are good to go and you can use them again. And especially I say with me too, because I'm not going to hold on to your files. I'm not going to be keeping your files past like a month of the books getting delivered to you. And the reason I say a month is because I'm going to have those files there in case we need to do a reprint, in case something came out wrong, in case there was like a really serious damage or whatever of the books that arrived to you. But past that point, the files are gone. I'm going to delete them. So this way, we don't have to keep going back and forth. If you want to do another print run in the future, you don't have to pay for another round of pre-press service or whatever else. You can just send the files that I had sent to you that were properly done and then send them back to me to do another printing. So it makes it nice and easy, and we keep it that way. So you're not just paying for me to do something. You're going to have ownership of those prepared files once they're all said and done. Let's see. We got Kelray says that's the fireworks reference, of course. Let's see. Did I miss something? Oh well. Komanga says Pete is king of newsprint. I'm fine with being court jester of newsprint, but I'll take king if you want it to be that way. Radio Stories Now says good evening. What's up, Radio Stories Now? Let's see. Says how's Alterna doing? It's doing. Could be better, could be worse. So I'm just glad that it is where it is. Dr. Crow says, is this all about way of doing all this? Of course. Just curious, if lettering and traditional on board, are there any concerns? You can letter traditionally on board. You could do the whole thing traditionally, color it, draw it to send those files to print. That those files don't have to be treated and processed correctly. So it's definitely going to be an extra step. But it is an extra step involved when you have lettering that you did back so it prints properly. And you also when you do anything that you scan through, some kind of other things to it. How a lot of problems they didn't take into account when they were created to dissuade anybody, but I do say it don't really think about. There's some concerns, but you can easily make those adjustments if you need to. Blurry. Well, that's blurry because of the fact that, wow, it's pretty loud. Do you guys hear that? They're a little bit blurry at times because of the fact that the printing process is so fast, and that you can have some kind of misregistration because of the fact that you're getting all of those different layers going at a tremendously fast. Can have a tendency to come out a little blurry, or even sometimes coloring can come out a little bit blurry. It's the printing process of what's happening. It's because of the high speed of the printing. But that's also why, because if you have another color in there, it's going to be and things like that. The cover is most likely going to be bleed though, so make sure that you send that as a bleed. If you don't, there's going to be problems with how it prints. But you can do that. I don't necessarily recommend it. I always recommend just even adding the false bleed that's there, even if it's just white paper. That kind of helps with everything. But you don't need to do that. I'm not going to bounce files back if that's how it is, as long as I see that all the files have been set up properly. Let's see. Kellraiser's having problems with the stream. That's unfortunate. Says keeps freezing and breaking up. Well, if someone else is having problems with the stream, hopefully those problems aren't built into the stream, and hopefully they'll be okay on the replay. Let's see. Imagine Alex says, so standard size is 2,750 pixels by 4,200 pixels, 400 dpi, CMJN. CMYK for color pages. Maybe you're doing JN because of where you are in Europe. Grayscale for black and white, 100% black for the police and inking. For the text and the inking, wondering how thinner gray lines print. They print fine. Yeah. And I'll show you guys in just a second. Let's see. So we're having some internet problems. That's interesting. Very interesting. I don't know why. Let's see. Crashline says I'm having that problem too. That's interesting. And Creative Face says, yes, I also have problems with it buffering. That's really weird. There shouldn't be any problems with it, but if you guys are having problems with it, that kind of stinks. Well, all right, we'll see. Creative Face says, seems fine now. Dr. Crow says, I did as well, but it's clear now. I wonder if it has something to do with a lot of the fireworks that have been going on over the course of the night. They recently stopped. Okay, so in terms of the printing quality, some of you guys were asking about that. Okay, so this is a mini sampler. The mini sampler, you guys can see the pages here. And you were asking about black and white and grayscale and whatnot. Now, this is a 5 by 7.5. So this is Nick Hunter's art on a sample page of King Cryptid #2. You know, I could get really close in there. Maybe it'll show it. So it prints very, very nicely. And again, this is just the sample page, the sample packet for the mini size. Each page here is just an example of a different Alterna book, just so you can get an idea of what the books would look like if you were to print yours. And also you'll notice too that the books lay nice and flat. Same thing with the Blood Realm books. You know, they don't do the usual, like the really big bowing out of the spine that you'll get at a lot of small batch print on demand type printers. So again, here is, you know, a larger, this is the standard size, and you'll have pricing information, all this other kind of stuff, formatting, sizing, how to prepare your files. That's on the inside covers here. And then on the back, there's a template example of how to read a template, what that would be like when you download it. It also gives you estimates and an idea of turnaround time, the proofing process, pre-press, all of that stuff, and how I pack and ship the books as well. So you can see, you can get an idea of how things print when it comes to the sample books. And the reason why, of course, that there are different pages from Alterna books is because there's a whole lot of different art styles in various Alterna books, and you can look at them, and chances are you can compare and go, yeah, mine would kind of look like that. So this way you can have you can make a better decision as to how your stuff would look. And again, this is the first page of that. Now, this is again is a sample size and standard, and the sampler in mini. And then this is the Blood Realm #15 book. So Blood Realm is largely just black, white, and red. You can print your book full color or black and white or whatever combination of colors. But if you get any kind of color in there, you're going to use full color pricing. So if you do black, white, you know, white would be the page, the paper itself. If you did black and blue or black and red or whatever, it's going to be considered a full color book when it goes to print. So you just want to be mindful of that as well. And again, this is issue 15 of Blood Realm. Printed in-house on the high-grade newsprint. So if you wanted to pick this up, this actually, ironically, is cheaper to purchase an issue of this than it is to purchase the print sampler. The print samplers are specifically made. So if you wanted to check out the in-house printing quality on either one, you could purchase Blood Realm 15 to 18, one of those issues, or you can purchase the print samplers to get an idea of the variety of styles that can be printed on these. Either one of them will help you out. And like I said, the inside covers and the back cover of the sampler books have bonus information for you guys on how to properly format your files and get them into me. Let's see, we got Kelraiser says, Pete, what is the situation with the covers since it will be outsourced? What kind of cost are we talking about for the covers? There's no added cost. It's all built in. So yeah, no additional cost. If a price of a book, you know, let's go back to here. If you went with a 32-page book and you got 100 copies at $288 a piece, the cover's already built into that. There's no additional cost for the covers. So you don't have to worry about anything like that. Cover cost is already built into the cost of the book itself. Sheldon says, them sample pages look great. Pretty excited about newsprint printed comics. Well, I'm glad to hear it, Sheldon. Imagine Alex says, I heard you say that on CMYK color contrast must be reinforced a bit. Do grayscale gradations of grays, just like on that page with the castle you showed, also need to be boosted? Not necessarily, but everything does need to be treated within the realm of keeping contrast in mind. There's a lot of comics that are out right now in modern times that contrast is kind of not being preached about and it's not being executed. There's a lot of dark on darker. It doesn't read right. It doesn't really print right. Even on more advanced printing machinery and on more premium paper stocks, you're still going to notice that because the ink saturation and the coverage is so much on both sides of the paper, a very thin piece of paper, you're still going to notice that there's some kind of warping a lot of the time with books. They get what's called fluting, and they'll have like a little bit of a ripple texture to it. So that's all the result of not properly preparing the coloration and the ink coverage totals when you're sending the file to print, based on the paper stock you're using and what kind of printing technique is being used. I mean, there's digital, there's offset, there's web press, there's sheet fed, there's all kinds of different ways to print something, and they all have their different ways of getting them formatted to print properly. So you got to really make sure that, especially the colorists that do so much heavy lifting on books nowadays, really have to make sure what kind of paper stock is being used, what kind of printing process is being used, so that they're aware of how they should prepare files and color files. But I always recommend make sure that the contrasting is up in terms of that light dark contrast. But you don't have to go too crazy with it. You just got to make sure that if you have something that you want to be really dark on the page, that's 100% black. If you have something that's supposed to be, lighter than that, you really want it to show up as lighter, you want to make sure that it's at least in the 70-75% range, and then consider, gradiating everything from there. But you don't have to go too crazy with it. Sheldon says, does the cover have to be black and white too? You might have already answered that. No, cover doesn't have to be black and white unless it's a black and white cover. If it's a black and white cover, then the cover file should be in grayscale mode too, black and white. But if it's not, it doesn't have to be black and white. You could do black and white or full color for the general printing of the book. Let's see. Imagine Alex says the cover looks really good. Yeah, cover came out great. Absolutely. Society Man says, do you plan to ever do print runs over 200? And also, are variant covers a separate print run? Variant covers would be a separate print run because they're not technically a true variant. Unless, of course, you did something like, let's say you got a run of 200 and you've got 4 variant covers and they're going to be in totals of 50. So then it's a total run of 200 and each cover is only having 50 made, but the internals are still just 200. So the interior files, it's the same page count, same exact pages, but the covers change. Now, if you want a variant cover made, 4 runs, 200 of each, those are 200 separate print runs. So that's something that I'm also going to give you a larger estimate on production time in terms of how much those get done. But no, I don't predict doing more than 200. If someone, and I say this for multiple reasons, if someone needs more than 200, generally speaking, if you need 300 plus of a book, you should probably go with a commercial printer of some kind. Because if you start paying 300 for like a print on demand book, that's going to usually be around the same pricing of 500 at a commercial printer. The economics of scale, you can't scale. There's the production time and speed it up. It's not possible. Doesn't make sense to do that. So if you need a run that's a lot larger than 200, go that way. If you're going to do 250, 300, I don't plan on doing larger than that. And that so far is not a problem that I've had to encounter. Getting people to even do a run more than 100 for a lot of people has been something that they're not really considering, and that's fine with me because I don't want to print more than 200 of a book. But you can go back to print, do a second printing, do a different cover, do multiple print runs of 200. That's fine. But if I start taking on orders that are larger than that, then people will come along and they'll go, well, I want 400 of a book. It doesn't really make economical sense for them to do that. And it doesn't make sense for me to do that as well, because the time involved and everything else, it would take too long given the rest of the workload that I already have to do aside from printing. So adding to printing with that, it's not going to be possible. Let's see. So Imagine Alex says, okay, so you would keep what as a contrast value? Nothing less than 25% between a white and a gray to keep readability? That really depends. You're better off kind of putting your files together and then even doing a test print at home. This is something that most people don't do. Most people don't actually just do a quick test print, even of a page at home. You'd be surprised as to how much your simple printer at home could replicate within the ballpark of what to expect when you get something printed professionally. So if you're looking at something that you did a test print on at home and it came out fine, more than likely it's going to still come out fine, if not better, with a more advanced or commercial grade printer. But yeah, you're talking about, there's adjustments here that are fine-tuned adjustments. You don't need to go into extremes. It's more that you just have to be mindful of how the page reads. 10.8 says dot gain is really the concern on gradation and blurry art. What happens is newsprint will soak in more ink per dot than coated paper. Little contrast helps colors from getting muddy. 100%. And this is a higher grade newsprint, so it's not in the same ballpark of a low grade newsprint that is basically going to really have more dot gain on there, so the ink will spread more. This is still going to be closer to, this is like an in-between from low grade newsprint and a decent uncoated paper stock. So you still want to maintain, though, that the dot gain on there. And you can make those adjustments on most software. But the biggest concern, again, with the factor of the ink distribution on the page, if you're doing everything within the parameters of keeping it below 220, sometimes even ideally around 200 as a max, and don't do like a whole page. If you just do a whole page of like 200 on the ink, first of all, it's not going to look good because you're not going to have much variation of color on the page. You're going to have no contrast there. But you're also going to have a page where now both sides of the page are going to have a 200 to 220 max on the ink, and you're going to have a totality of 400 on the page itself because both sides. That's the big reason too, though, on paper like newsprint or on thinner paper stocks in general, that even if it's a coated paper stock, if you're kind of maxing out both sides and putting like 300 plus on both sides, you're going to have in totality on a sheet of paper ink between 600 to 800 on the value. And that's way too much saturation on the page. It's pretty much like a wet page. And that's a lot of the times too, while you'll notice that there's some books out there that, the ink shouldn't get on your fingers, but it does. And that's largely why. It has to do with the fact that you're putting too much ink on the page. Not you, the reader, of course, but you, the colorist, publisher, artist, whoever it may be. Let's see. 10.8 says that was for the non-technical. There you go. Bronze Age Caveman. Hi, Pete. Hi, chat. What's up, Bronze Age Caveman? And 10.8 says, yep. So he's in agreement with whatever's going on here. So yeah, if you guys have any more questions, let me know. I do want to say, I forgot to say this before the show started. Since it is a new month, it's August 1st. I gifted 10 memberships to the channel. So if you did receive one, it's a random thing. I don't get to choose who received the memberships. But if you did get one, congrats. And I hope you enjoy it. You got it for a month. And you get to use the emojis in the chat and in the comments and whatnot. And you got access to members only videos. And most of that stuff is like past auctions and things like that, launch streams and whatnot. But you get access to that if you wanted to poke around and see what's there. But other than that, thank you guys so much. So if you guys have questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll wrap this up in a few minutes. Again, this in-house printing service is not just for Alterna Books. This is a service we're extending to other creators as well for runs of 200 or less, 48-page books or less. So keep that in mind. The reason that I don't say 52 or 56 or 60 or whatever is because they're just too thick. I don't trust printing those and stapling them and binding them and doing all that stuff. I think that is going to lead to a lot of complications and the book not looking as good as it really could be. Most people don't have books that they want to have stapled that are over 48. At that point, most people go for like a perfect bound kind of a look. And so I don't really anticipate many people doing that. I will say, though, that if you are considering like a 60 or 70 or 80 page stapled book, if you go through a print on demand printer for a book like that, it's going to be an endeavor. It's not really going to come out that great. It's just not. They don't have the capabilities to fold the pages correctly, to flatten the book correctly. It's going to be a nightmare. You're way better off with a print on demand printer at that point, something that's 60 pages or even sometimes 48 plus, going through the perfect bound process. And the perfect bound process, of course, is it's a square bound book. It's got the nice lays flat kind of thing going on in terms of, if you do it right anyway, in terms of the book being presentable to your readers. Perfect bound books, people have asked, will I be doing that? No, I'm not going to be doing that. I'm just going to be doing the staple saddle stitch books. This is single issues. It's a whole other setup to do perfect bound, and it's a lot more time consuming as well when you don't have the proper commercial setup for it. So I won't be doing that. I will say, though, that if you are someone who's in the market for perfect bound and you want the book to lay completely flat, you're going to want to get the book stitched. You're going to get it Smith sewn. If you want to get it glue bound, which is cheaper, it could potentially still open flat, but the binding over time will not last. The glue won't support it. Sometimes, depending on the process of it, the glue won't support even just immediately doing it that way. But you want to make sure with perfect bound, it's a whole different process when you have something like a full page spread, or you've got a thicker book. Let's say you've got like 200 or 300 pages. You want to really make sure you're accounting for gutter loss, which is what the spine of it, the binding, is going to eat up in the margins. It's going to make your book unreadable if you've got your pages that are at the margins too close to the margins. So you got to set up the book a bit differently in anticipation of that. But usually you don't see something like that happen until you get into like the 200 page count range, something like that. And again, that's for perfect bound. Let's see. Thanks, Imagine Alex, for becoming a member of the channel. Appreciate it. 10-8 says, Pete, thanks for the info above and beyond, sir. Well, thank you, 10-8. And thank you for the dot gain reminder there to get the word out. Mighty Joe says, has anyone asked for sketchbook printing? Curious how raw pencils would print. Love that aesthetic. It'll probably print pretty great. But no one has asked about that. No one has asked about that. I think people probably should, if they're doing something that's like, if you want more of like a polished professional ash can, if you've got something like a convention exclusive, if you've got a sketchbook, if you've got, and that you're going to get it printed, especially printed with the staples, the saddle stitch stapled spine involved, you should really look into this printing, because it's going to be a lot better and I think more aesthetically pleasing than getting it on coated paper or something like that. Pencil reproductions on like gloss or even sometimes, matte is preferred for anything that's like that. But even sometimes on like silk coated paper, it looks kind of wonky. It doesn't really, and I think it's because you don't really see pencils on glossy paper. You see pencils on uncoated paper, you see pencils on stuff that looks like you would draw on it. So people who are considering some kind of sketchbook like that really should consider maybe getting them printed here. Even if you did a variation on it, you could still do a smaller variation, a smaller print run, and have them printed in-house here with us. All right, so I guess that's about it. Thank you guys so much for your questions and your comments tonight. Again, for people who are waiting on their Blood Realm 15 to 18 issues from Rob, he's going to be having his fulfillment throughout the rest of this month. He's already fulfilled a bunch of those orders. The Alterna site, if you ordered through there for Blood Realm 15 to 18, I've already shipped all of those books out to you, so hopefully you've received yours. And then as far as the sample books and the shirts go and a couple other perks from the Fund My Comic campaign, the rest of that is going to fulfill within the next week or two. And then the sketch cards will fulfill by sometime in September. I'm going to be working on those as soon as the Blood Realm books are done printing up, which will happen in about a week and a half or so. So then my schedule will be a little bit more opened up, and we'll see how things go with people sending in their files and their projects and their comics for print. Hopefully we get some books coming through this month. That'd be great. All right. Thank you guys so much again. Everyone have a wonderful night. And this is going to be the last stream on StreamYard. I'm leaving StreamYard as of tomorrow, and I'm going to be going to Restream. And I'll talk to you guys on there the next time I have a show. So it'll be on Restream. You don't have to do anything different. I'll still be on YouTube. The show will still relatively look the same. The show will more or less look like this without the comic book radio accoutrement. And that's mostly because of the fact that on Restream, I'm going to be trying out their free service, see how it goes, see what I like about it before I consider upgrading to anything else. But, all these little bells and whistles, they don't really add a whole lot extra. But they'll be gone. So this will be the last time you guys are going to be seeing those, at least for the foreseeable future. But until then, everyone, I'll be on Restream the next time I see you. Hope you guys take care. And thank you for watching tonight's video. Hope it was helpful. And I hope that this service helps a lot of people out. I'm looking forward to getting a lot of books printed for a lot of great creators out there. Hopefully we can get more newsprint in the hands of a lot of deserving readers. All right. Thank you, guys. Take it easy. Have a wonderful night.